She thought motherhood would be her safe place, the moment she could finally breathe after years of service, sacrifice, and discipline. But safety was ripped away in an instant. Flashing lights, shouting voices, the sound of snarling dogs filling the night. And there she was, a black woman holding her newborn, trapped in the glare of police suspicion. No crime, no warning, just fear, humiliation, and the weight of history pressing down on her chest. What those officers didn't know was that she carried more than a child in her arms. She carried secrets of her own, skills, training. There was a past that had the potential to turn this nightmare completely upside down. How did a routine night turn into a scene of terror? And what happens when those sworn to protect reveal the very injustice they claim to fight? This isn't just her story. It's a story America refuses to face. For most people, the days after giving birth are a blur of exhaustion and joy. For Alyssa Carter, they were something more, proof of survival. She was a new mother, cradling a tiny baby who felt like the only piece of innocence she had left in a world that too often tried to strip it away. At 29 years old, Alyssa had lived many lives already. She was a veteran, a dog handler, in the military who had spent years learning discipline, control, and calm under pressure. But here at home, in her own neighborhood, she wasn't treated like a hero. She was treated like a problem. Her days were simple. Feedings, late night, rocking, whispered promises to her newborn that life would be better, safer, fairer. To anyone watching, Alyssa was just another tired mother doing her best. But beneath the surface was a woman constantly scanning, constantly aware, never able to fully rest. The uniform may have been gone, but the habits never left. It wasn't paranoia. It was survival. She had seen too much, both abroad and at home, to believe she could ever let her guard down completely. Growing up black in America had taught her that peace could be interrupted at any moment. A trip to the store, a walk through the park. Even a quiet evening rocking her baby by the window could hold the seeds of something unexpected. That night was supposed to be ordinary. A short drive, a chance to clear her head, to remind herself that life after the military and life as a mother could find some kind of rhythm. She checked the car seat twice, whispered a lullaby, and started the engine. Just another drive under the streetlights. Just another night, she thought, would pass without incident. But as she turned onto a quiet road, headlights flared in her rearview mirror. They lingered too close, too long. She tightened her grip on the wheel, her instincts stirring. To anyone else, it might have felt like coincidence. To Alyssa, it was the kind of silence before the storm. She didn't know it yet, but the next few minutes would shatter every fragile layer of safety she had built. Because when those lights behind her began to flash red and blue, Alyssa Carter's life, and the life of her newborn, was about to change forever. The blue and red lights flashed across Alyssa's windscreen, splintering the calm night into chaos. Her baby stirred in the back seat, a soft whimper breaking the silence. She pulled over slowly, her hands steady but her pulse racing. For most people, this might have been routine. For Alyssa, it was anything but. She had seen too many stories and too many names that ended with hashtags and vigils. She knew the script, and it rarely ended well for women who looked like her. The officer's car door slammed, then another. Heavy boots pounded against asphalt, more than one set moving fast. Alyssa's chest tightened. Why so many? Why now? She rolled the window halfway down, keeping her voice calm and rehearsed. "Officer, is there a problem?" But the response wasn't words. It was barking. The guttural snarl of dogs straining against their leashes, filling the night with a sound meant to terrify. Alyssa froze, her training whispering a dozen commands in her mind. Sit, stay, heal. Commands she had once used with precision, commands that had saved lives in war zones. But here, in her own city, she wasn't the handler. She was the target. Step out of the vehicle, a voice finally thundered. Alyssa glanced at the rearview mirror. Her baby's eyes fluttered open, confused, frightened. She shook her head gently. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here." But even as she whispered the words, her own heart didn't believe them. She cracked the door open, moving slowly, hands raised. The dogs lunged closer, teeth flashing under the glare of headlights. One officer shouted something about a suspicious vehicle. Another barked orders about searching the car. Alyssa's mind reeled. Suspicious? She had done nothing but drive, nothing but exist in skin they had already judged guilty. The officers circled, their tone sharpening, their presence swelling like a storm cloud. Alyssa kept her composure, though inside, panic clawed at her. Every second felt like a test. One wrong move, one sudden gesture, and her baby could be left screaming in an empty car seat. Then came the moment that sliced through her nerves. One officer let the dog inch closer, the leash slackening. The animal's snout hovered near her legs, its growl vibrating through the ground. Alyssa locked her knees, every instinct screaming to take control. She had trained dogs far more dangerous than this one, taught them to detect explosives, track fugitives, and save lives. She knew the exact command that would quiet its rage. But speaking it here, revealing who she was, could mean everything or nothing. "Do you understand what's happening right now?" The officer sneered. His question wasn't for clarity, it was for control. Alyssa said nothing, only tightened her grip on the air, her baby's cry echoing louder from the car. Each sound was a dagger to her chest. Her silence only fueled their aggression. One officer yanked open the back door, his flashlight stabbing into the car seat. "What's this?" he barked, as if a child were contraband. Alyssa's body stiffened, terror surging like fire. "Don't touch my baby!" she snapped before she could stop herself. Her voice cracked, not with weakness, but with a fury, born of love. The dogs reacted instantly, barking louder, surging forward and straining to break free. Officers shouted over one another, hands brushing near weapons. For a moment, the entire world balanced on a knife's edge. Alyssa's training screamed at her to act. Her instincts begged her to protect her child. And yet, she stood frozen, her body trembling between compliance and resistance. The leash jerked again, closer this time. The animal's teeth flashed inches from her hand. Alyssa inhaled sharply. She could feel it. This wasn't just intimidation. This was escalation. And deep down, she knew something they didn't. She wasn't powerless. She had a skill they couldn't imagine, a knowledge they had no idea they were up against. But could she risk revealing it now? Or would her silence be the only thing keeping her baby alive? The night hung heavy, every sound sharper, every second slower. Alyssa Carter's story was no longer about routine traffic stops or simple misunderstandings. This was something darker, something that was about to explode. The leash slipped. In a split second, the dog lunged forward, its teeth flashing like steel under the headlights. Alyssa's body jolted, pure instinct taking over. She twisted sideways, shielding the car door. With her body, her arms spread wide as if her flesh alone could block the beast from her baby. The growl was guttural and deafening. For a heartbeat, she thought this was it, the end of everything, her life reduced to a headline, her child another orphan of injustice. But muscle memory screamed louder than fear. Her voice, sharp and commanding, tore through the chaos. "Down! Heel!" The dog froze mid-snarl, confusion flashing across its eyes. It whimpered, then dropped to the ground, belly pressed against asphalt. The officers staggered back, stunned, their authority suddenly fractured. Alyssa's chest heaved, adrenaline flooding every vein. For the first time that night, she wasn't prey. She was power. "Who do you think you are?" one officer roared, his hand twitching near his weapon. Another yanked on the leash, but the animal refused to move, its training overridden by Alyssa's command. She stood taller now, her voice steady though her body trembled. "You don't get to terrorize me. Not with dogs. Not with lies." Her words cut through the night. But instead of retreating, the officers doubled down. One shoved closer, the flashlight burning into her eyes, trying to blind her, silence her. Another barked accusations about resisting arrest and about interfering with procedure, but their shouts couldn't cover the truth. They had lost control. Behind Alyssa, her baby wailed, the sound slicing sharper than any weapon. Every cry reminded her of the stakes. This wasn't just survival, this was legacy. This was the difference between her child growing up with a mother or a memory. For one terrifying moment, silence fell. No barking, no shouting, just the hollow buzz of radios crackling in the distance. It was the kind of silence that pressed on the chest, suffocating, demanding a choice. Then headlights appeared down the road, another car slowing, a phone raised in the window. Witnesses, eyes, proof. The officers stiffened, their bravado faltering. Alyssa saw it. The fear, not of her, but of accountability, of being caught, of having the world watch what they had unleashed. Her breath shook as she whispered to herself, steadying, anchoring. They don't get to write the ending. But the night wasn't finished. One officer's hand still hovered near his holster. The dog, though subdued, trembled with conflict, and Alyssa, clutching the only piece of innocence she had left in this world, knew the fight wasn't over. The flashing lights eventually dimmed, swallowed by the night as the officers retreated. Their authority cracked under the weight of witnesses and their own mistakes. The dogs were pulled back into their cages, the leashes yanked with frustration. No arrest was made, no charges were filed. But for Alyssa, the damage had already been carved into her spirit. She sat behind the wheel, hands trembling as she buckled, her baby back into safety. Her chest still heaved, her mind still replaying the sight of bared teeth inches from her skin. And though she had survived the encounter, she knew survival came at a cost. Trust was gone. The illusion of safety was gone. The idea that her service to this country could protect her shattered. For days, she replayed the night in her head, the commands she had given, the look on the officers' faces when their own weapon of intimidation bowed to her voice, the helplessness of standing with her arms raised while her baby cried in the dark, and the haunting thought of what might have happened if no headlights had appeared on that road. But Alyssa also knew her story wasn't just hers. It belonged to every black parent who fears the flashing lights in their rearview mirror. To every veteran who returns home expecting respect, only to be met with suspicion. To every child who grows up learning that a badge and a gun don't always mean protection. The truth is, Alyssa shouldn't have had to rely on her training to save her own life. She shouldn't have had to speak the language of dogs to stop men from unleashing fear on her and her child. She shouldn't have had to prove her worth in order to be treated with dignity. And yet, this is the reality. A reality where survival often depends not on innocence, but on endurance, where entire communities live in a constant state of vigilance because one wrong assumption, one wrong word, or one wrong glance can end everything. Alyssa's story leaves us with a question we cannot ignore. How many more times? How many more mothers will have to shield their children from the very people sworn to protect them? How many more fathers will be stopped, searched, and humiliated for nothing more than driving while black? How many more names will be etched into the collective grief of a nation that refuses to learn? She made it home that night, but not unchanged. She carries the weight of that moment like armor, and she carries the scars like warnings. Her child will grow up hearing the story of how dogs were once turned on them both, not by enemies overseas, but by officers in their own neighborhood. The question isn't whether Alyssa was strong enough. She proved she was. The question is whether we, as a society, are strong enough to confront why she had to be. Because this wasn't just her fight. It's our fight. And the next time those lights flash in the rear view, whose story will it be?